Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Ultimate Comics Podcast. My name is Nabeel Gaber and I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Josh Kang, the other host.
And this is the podcast where we talk about Ultimate Marvel, an imprint of Marvel Comics that began in the year 2000 in an attempt to modernize and reimagine Marvel and its characters for the 21st century. So we got Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four, yada yada yada. Josh and I have been talking every episode about a different batch of issues going pretty much in order on the Ultimate Marvel timeline, just discussing the issues and what we think, what we like, what we don't like, what works, what doesn't work, what was changed from the original comics, and overall just the influence this imprint had on pop culture and Marvel overall. So this week we're talking about Ultimate Spider-Man issues 66 to 71.
Yeah,
Josh, what do
they.
you think of these issues?
I like them. I think they're very popular stories if you don't know Ultimate Marvel very well, but you know Marvel, because people reference these a lot on the internet. They're very
Mm-hmm.
fun stories to read, and I feel like if you just want to have something not a very serious comic where you just want to have fun with the characters, this is it. These have like variations of the first story, at least of this arc, and this especially the first story have been made in the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show. If you ever watched it.
I mean, I heard about how this first arc was adapted into Ultimate Spider-Man. I never actually watched Ultimate Spider-Man, but I know what you're talking about.
I honestly think you might like that episode better than you did this comic, since considering our previous discussion and what the listeners will learn about our discussion. I think you're right. They're fun arcs, they're fun stories, but especially the first one doesn't seem to fit 100% into the overall story based on characterizations that happen with the characters since the past. But
Mm-hmm.
they honestly feel like they're a break from the storyline or the timeline to just be like a fun side quest. It does feel like Ultimate Marvel team up more than Ultimate Spider-Man itself.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I agree with that because this is basically six issues that are broken up into two-part storylines, and each two-part story has Spidey teaming up with a different hero or getting involved with another hero, one might say. You'll learn as we discuss these issues, but you have Wolverine in the first couple of issues, then the Human Torch, then Doctor Strange. And yeah, you're right, Josh. It does feel a lot like Ultimate Marvel Team Up, which was also written by Brian Michael Bendis, the writer of Ultimate Spider-Man. And I think it is a nice breather after we just went over the Ultimate Carnage storyline, which was very intense, very heavy, very dark. Of course, we just experienced the death of Ultimate Gwen Stacy. Peter decided he was going to quit being Spider-Man and hang it all up, although there's a bit of ambiguity there as to if he can stop. There's still that compulsion and that need to help others when he hears a cry for help. But I think this batch of issues we're covering today, it's a nice bit of levity and just fun that I think was
yeah,
much needed. You need that tonal balance after a while. It can't all just be heavy, dark, intense, very serious, high stakes action all the time. Otherwise, I think readers get burnt out. And I'm sure writers would probably get burnt out on that after a while as well, and artists.
yeah, makes sense. Also, these issues are a bit. The first one especially is a bit horn doggy, and unfortunately, that's kind of has reflected on Wolverine's character, and like you kind of said, it kind of spread into main people's understanding of Wolverine in general, and that like he's always been a bit of a creep, but now it's completely because of this. It's a little.
Yeah, I'd say this first story that we talk about today, this two-parter with Spider-Man and Wolverine, I think it's very fun, but it is infamous, I think, in a way. I think mainly in part due to Wolverine's depiction in this story. And I would also say just Wolverine's ogling and inappropriate behavior towards teenage girls, considering this is a very old, very hairy man creeping up on teenage girls. And I think it's fun overall, but it's also like yikes. And I think a lot of people take issue with this story for a lot of the inappropriate behaviors and actions on Wolverine's part.
Well,
And I think that informs just a lot of perception about the character of Wolverine generally. even though this isn't even the main version of the character.
We also cannot forget that the reason we thought Ultimate Wolverine was a scumbag was that he slept with Jean Grey, who was 19, and
Yeah,
Ultimate Jean Grey is not that much older than Ultimate MJ, who's 16.
that's
So
true.
he already was a creep, and if you know, he already banged a 19-year-old and kept on hitting on her after she said no. You kind of could see him trying it out with trying with a 16-year-old.
Yeah. Well, I think to further get into this discussion, let's just dive into these issues so our listeners can fully understand what we're talking about here. Issue 66 of Ultimate Spider-Man begins. First off, we get the recap page at the beginning of every issue, and this one has a little something extra here because we have a very self-deprecating, like ridiculous panel inside of the recap page that's an illustration of Brian Michael Bendis, the writer, talking directly to the reader, basically giving this whole speech just saying, every once in a while a story comes along and it's so good that you just have to write it. And he's basically like, this is not that story. So it's a very goofy, self-deprecating kind of jab at their own work here, saying this two-parter is just kind of dumb. We think it's ridiculous, but what? And it's very funny because you see Mark Bagley, the artist, in the background, chained to his desk with he's drawn out a help note on the desk and everything. So it really sets the tone for what kind of story it's going to be. The issue begins really in earnest with what seems to be Peter waking up just very grumpy, very just angry, and he's scratching his butt and everything, and he seems a little off.
Even Aunt May notices and says, "You're being grumpy."
Yeah, he's pretty rude to Aunt May. He wakes up and he's like, "What the hell is this?" And she's like, "Oh, breakfast." And of course, they're still mourning the loss of Gwen. And she's like, "We had such a good talk yesterday, and I was so happy we seem to be moving forward and all that." And he's just confused. He's like, "I don't, whatever you say, sure."
Get off me, woman.
Yeah, and then MJ comes into the basement and she's like, "Aren't we going to get ready for school? Come on. I know things have been difficult, but I'm here for you," and all this stuff. And she's really sweet and she hugs him and they kiss. And then when they're hugging, then the panel basically has what seemed to be Peter's face looking directly at the reader with this very disturbing, excited look on his face. Oh yeah, I'm about to get some action, that kind of look on his face. And then we cut to what seems to be Wolverine waking up in this dumpy motel, and then he's like, "Why does it smell so bad? Oh my gosh, I'm so hairy." He's horrified. He looks in the mirror and he screams and he accidentally stabs himself in the arm. So basically at this point, I think you guys, hopefully listening, can understand Peter and Wolverine have switched bodies somehow. We don't know how, but this whole thing is some Freaky Friday situation where Spider-Man and Wolverine swap bodies, and that's the story. It's so
Yeah.
goofy, it's very fun, it's ridiculous, it's silly.
Classic story now, though. It's now a classic story.
Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, it's a highlight of this series. A lot of people will look back on Ultimate Spider-Man, and one of the first things they'll think of is, oh yeah, that story where Spider-Man and Wolverine swap bodies, that Freaky Friday situation.
Also, in the TV show, which is more of a kids-oriented show, the Ultimate Spider-Man is mostly a kids-oriented comic. Peter Parker does cut off his penis. The first thing he does is Wolverine.
I mean, one of the first things he does is look at it, and he looks shocked, but he doesn't cut it off.
Oh, I meant in the TV show he cuts it off, or it's hinted he stabs it accidentally.
On a kids show?
Yeah, because there's a scene where he looks down and goes, "I have to pee" or something, and then you hear the schnick sound and him screaming. And that's the first scene you see of Peter as Wolverine in the TV show.
I will take your word for it. I'll take that with a grain of salt, though. I gotta watch this now.
Yeah, no, as far as the Ultimate Spider-Man, the TV show, is not a good TV show, but it has some solid episodes, if that makes sense. Same with a lot of the Marvel cartoons. They're not good, but they have solid episodes every once in a while.
There's good episodes and good moments, yeah, occasionally.
As opposed to DC shows or Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is a good show with bad episodes, which is generally what you want for a TV show, I guess.
Yeah, that's typically what you would hope for. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But then back at Peter's place, Logan in Spider-Man's body is kind of testing the waters to see if MJ knows that Peter is Spider-Man. And once he figures that out, he's like, "Okay, go get my Spider-Man outfit. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to school. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, high school's a waste of time.
You'll get it when you're older.
Yeah, he's like, you'll get it when you're older. The only thing worth your time is a good hunt or something like that, which is such like a Wolverine thing to say.
Yeah. Well, which is why he's finishing high school right now in the X Mansion.
Yeah, literally. That's
Yeah.
why they enrolled him at the Xavier Institute, because he never finished high school.
I mean, he might have. He just doesn't remember. That's a
Yeah, probably
possibility too.
not. He doesn't
Oh,
remember being married. He definitely doesn't remember finishing high school.
yeah. It's probably like also like considering he fought in World War II, like 1920s at least.
Yeah, the curriculum's been updated then since then. I think he needs a refresher.
Yeah.
But then he gets a call at Peter's house from someone claiming to be from the Daily Bugle. And of course, on the other end, it's Peter in Logan's body yelling, like, what did you do? Did you infect me with some kind of
Yeah,
mutant virus or something?
which is kind
Yeah.
of racist. Like, if you're going like
Yeah.
mutants are a race, it's a little racist. I'll be honest.
Yeah. In this arc, Peter does not really show his best when it comes to open-mindedness towards mutants and everything. He does show quite a bit of mutant prejudice, or at least implicit forms of mutant racism, if not explicit. But he's like, go to school for me. I can't miss any more class. It's really funny. He's like, I've missed too many days already. And Logan's like, I'm not going to school.
He was
It's like, please.
All you gotta do is stay there for 5 minutes and then go to the bathroom. Which, look,
Yeah.
it's not a good thing, but we've all done it.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that a couple times in middle school PE, I'm sad to say. Sorry, mom and dad, if you're listening.
I don't try to make a habit of it, but I know for a fact there's a few classes where like I went to the bathroom way more than I should have.
Yeah, sometimes I was in the bathroom for a long time. And I was like,
Whoa,
oh,
man.
there's only 5 minutes left in class. Oh, what a shame.
oh wow, Nabeel, that's you're such a bad boy, you know.
Yeah, I'm a real delinquent.
I know, just like Spider-Man. No, Wolverine.
Or Wolverine.
Yeah. Though to be fair, Spider-Man that teaches him the trick, so Spider-Man's
Yeah.
not that nice, good either.
No, he's not. But then when Peter's on the phone with Logan, he gets so frustrated. He still can't control his claws in Wolverine's body, so he accidentally cuts off his finger and is so pleasantly surprised to see it grow back. He's like, huh. And it's the same thing with Logan. When his hand is on the phone, he can't unstick his hand because he's got Spider-Man's powers.
Yeah.
And so he just holds it behind his back so Aunt May doesn't see that his hand is stuck to the phone.
It's also funny that when Peter slices his finger off, it grows back a little shrivel. So
Yeah.
later Wolverine would know, like, you already cut off a finger? But it's funny that it's a finger in the more adult and mature comic and the dick the kid show.
I mean, I still do not fully believe you about what happens in Ultimate Spider-Man, but I will watch that episode and I will get back to you on that.
It's a good episode.
I believe you.
Yeah, yeah. They honestly actually, you might actually prefer the episode to this comic, honestly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? That'll be extra homework for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then, meanwhile, Logan makes it to school as Peter, and he goes with MJ to school, and they're in front of the school, and he's just ogling these teenage cheerleaders, it's pretty gross. And he's just not paying attention to anything MJ's saying. And I'm like, Logan, how old are you? You're ogling some 15-year-old girls in cheerleading outfits. Like, it's nasty.
He already did it to a 19-year-old. We already know his standards are pretty not good.
Yeah, Ultimate Wolverine again. He's probably the worst Wolverine, I will say. He's not a good guy. And he's kind of just a dick to MJ, and he's like, this was fun and all, but why don't you go play with your Barbies or something? And so she just basically shoves the Spider-Man costume in his hands and storms off, rightfully so. And then he's basically just wandering around the schoolyards, and a cop's like, hey, get to class. And this cop starts chasing Logan, who is, again, still in Peter's body, but Logan jumps up onto the wall using Peter's powers to stick to walls, and he literally, like, jumps on top of the cop. And it's really funny the way Mark Bagley illustrates this, because he's got his fist out, and it looks like he's basically still got the reflexes of as if he's still in his own body, because his hand's up like he's gonna stab this cop with his claws. which is very funny. And Peter shows up and is like, hey, you can't just kill this guy. And he's like, oh, he almost made me. What do you mean? It's really fun in this issue. I love the banter between these two. They're like bickering like an old married couple, like for so much of it. Just
It's
about like, you did this to my body. Well, you did this to my body. And you got to go to school. And did you cut off my finger? And all this stuff.
And it's funny because like you were in my body for like 45 minutes and you already cut off a finger. You already lost a finger. But I do love the fact that the two of them act like they're still in the other's body, because that makes sense, and that shows like they put a lot of attention into the story.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I was Peter and I saw that, I'm like, hey, this guy has been used to being bulletproof for like a good chunk. I'm gonna be afraid it's just gonna run into a bullet and die and kill my body accidentally.
And Peter would have no idea that he's immune to any form of damage, really. He'll heal from pretty much anything in Wolverine's body.
Yeah. Including a cut off penis in a kid's show.
Oh my gosh. We're going to keep going back to this.
Well, we're almost done with this little mini arc, so.
Thank God.
No.
Mainly because I don't want to hear any more about the cutting off of the penis. Anyways.
Look, there's already cannibalism in Ultimate Marvel. This is not that much worse.
Oh my god.
And we're going to hit incest in like a few comics.
I love it. Yeah. I love the topic we chose for our podcast so much. Then Peter finally convinces Logan to sit through a session of class. And of course, as soon as Logan sits down, he's immediately like, can I go to the bathroom? And they're like, Mr. Parker, you showed up late to class. You're not going anywhere.
They said bathrooms are for students who show up on time. And I'm like, that's true, but that's a dick move, teacher.
Yeah, damn. The teacher really got him on that one.
Yeah. I feel like you can't do that as a teacher anymore. Like, now, I feel.
Yeah, because then you're sitting there and like, all right, I guess I'll just pee my pants here in your classroom. Is that what you want?
Hey, yeah, you can't do that. This is a school, not Amazon.
Yeah.
The next one, he sees car crashes in the distance because Peter, as Logan, tries to stop a high-speed chase, but he does it as Spider-Man, but in Logan's body, so he doesn't have the agility to do it.
Yeah, I think he also underestimates how far he can leap as Wolverine, because I think he overshoots the leap. He lands in a way that causes a massive car crash between the cop car and the getaway car for the criminals. And meanwhile, Logan's sitting through class, and I think it's really funny seeing, in some ways, how Logan behaves in Peter's body, because he's getting the typical bullying by Flash, who's flicking him from the desk behind. And he just turned around and he growls at him. And Flash is like, oh shit, like, what was that?
This is an animal. It's a big hairy dick and like more animal than man. Remember, like, not too long ago, like they just ditched him and they're like, you're now the X-Men. He's just went to Canada killing animals like some animal.
Yeah, literally. Like he's still got all those animal instincts inside of him that Peter does not.
And like, imagine like you're behind this kid and like you're not a bully and this kid just looks at you and growls like a dog. You're gonna go like,
yeah,
what is this?
I'd shit myself.
It's like, this is Flash who has like a power advantage, he thinks, over Peter. So if he freaks out, it must be like really, in my opinion, must be like kind of realistic.
Yeah. It was scary enough to just like get Flash to back off, but probably not as strong as an actual Wolverine growl. But the issue ends with now everyone in the classroom can see the crash outside the window and the high-speed chase that Peter got involved in. And then, of course, Logan's sitting there in Peter's body, and he's just thinking, that idiot. And so we're like, all right, how are they going to get out of this one? Yeah. And we go back to the recap page at the beginning of the next issue for the second part. And this is a very famous opening, honestly, because it's Brian Michael Bendis again, but he's strangling Nick Lowe, who at the time was the assistant editor, who is now infamous really for being the editor for the Spider-Man office, because of how many people currently and for years have hated the status quo of Amazing Spider-Man. But that's neither here nor there. But basically, it opens with Bendis strangling Nick Lowe, getting him to admit, yes, this story was my idea. And he's like, I didn't think he would actually do it. I swear, I didn't think he would write it. And then Bendis basically just promises, this is the last part of the story. Even I can't squeeze out more than 2 parts, which is a fun jab at himself, too, for the classic Bendis decompression of his arcs, where it's typically like a 6-issue arc or something, but he's like, nah, 2 parts, that's it. I can't give any more time to this story.
We've seen Wolverine's character change in Ultimate X-Men over multiple issues. He gets less scummy. Nick
Mm-hmm.
Lowe is kind of bringing it back to like, no, Ultimate Wolverine is just a scumbag. You didn't like him hitting on a 19-year-old? Now he's hitting on actual underage people.
And we can't say for sure. In all these cases, we can never tell exactly how much of it is the writer and how much is editorial influencing these things.
Yeah.
But this story arc does feel like a weird step backwards for Ultimate Wolverine.
Yeah.
Especially since Bendis was the writer on Ultimate X-Men like not that long before this, and he was trying to turn Wolverine around and make him less of a scumbag like in the Mark Millar run. So it's weird, but
we should honestly one day just do a deep dive and analysis of the past by like seeing if we can find interviews, because we did find some for Mark Millar about
That's
his
true.
stuff. True.
Yeah.
To be fair, Mark Millar, like, it's just because he exploded and he just has a ton of these interviews around.
Yeah,
So they're a little
but I'm
easy.
sure there's plenty of interviews with Bendis on stuff like this.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
both super famous, like
Oh,
as
yeah.
comic book writers.
Yeah. I mean, but Mark Millar also has a documentary about him. It's an 11-minute long documentary by Netflix, by the way. If anyone wants to watch it, it's very good and very interesting. It does give you an insight into Ultimate X-Men when it was first made.
It's pretty short.
Yeah.
And sweet, yeah.
Yeah.
Then this issue begins properly with Peter is still in Wolverine's body and he's stuck underneath this car after the chase, but since he's got Wolverine's healing ability and his strength and claws, he's able to get out from under this car pretty easily. And everyone in the classroom is still gazing out the window being like, what the hell is going on?
And their biggest concern is like, this is awesome, and does this mean we get to go home early because we're so traumatized? And the teacher's like, no, you guys get back to your desks.
These kids in Midtown are always looking for an excuse to get out of school. And you know, if I were them, I would be in the same boat. I'd be like, I don't want to deal with this shit.
I mean, I'll be honest, a few of the jobs I've had, the excuse, everyone just look for an excuse to leave work early or to go home or to not work.
Yeah.
So
us kids today, no one wants to work.
Yeah.
I'm in that same boat. I'll take going home early any day. But it's funny because the cops are surrounding Peter, and Peter still can't control Wolverine's claws, and the cops keep yelling at him to put him down. And this, to me, was very reminiscent of... You remember that scene in X-Men 2 when the cops have them surrounded at Iceman's house, and they're yelling at Wolverine to put the knives down because they don't understand that they're claws in part of his body, and he's like, I can't. And then they just shoot him in the head. This is pretty much like that, and I think this was a little after that. So this might have been a fun little Easter egg or an homage to that, or maybe it was a coincidence, who knows. But Peter cannot control these claws, and he does not know how to retract them properly or without putting them back out again. So
I feel that makes sense, because the same reason Wolverine's having difficulty with Spider-Man's powers is that they got used to their bodies, and like, I don't know, like, I know how to move like 10 fingers and 4 limbs. If you gave me a tail, I would not know like how to move it, honestly. It takes a while.
Yeah, no, it would take a while to adjust to that. So, of course, just being in his body for like less than a day, he has no idea how to use it.
So, fun fact, the ending of the TV episode about this, they change it from the culprit of the comic to a villain, and Spider-Man as Wolverine interrogates the guy, and the guy goes, I'm not afraid of you, you're harmless. And Spider-Man actually shoots a claw out into his nose, and it goes like...
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah. It's like, you might just kill me accidentally, because you have no idea what you're doing.
I gotta watch this episode.
I know it. No, it's honestly one of the better episodes of the show, which honestly sucks, because that means the show actually could have been good if they could make good episodes, because they did. It just was bad.
But back in the comic, then Peter just tries to run from the cops and gets tased, and Logan is around the corner looking at it. He's face palming because he's so embarrassed. And then there's this fun bit where Peter's getting shoved in the back of the police car and getting driven away, and he's yelling out the window. And Logan's yelling, like, Peter, he's like, why don't you run? And Peter's yelling at Logan, he's like, put the costume on, put the costume on. And it's so funny. And they're like, I hate you. It's like, I hate you more. And it's this very funny, like, opposite dynamic buddy cop kind of thing where they just have no choice but to work together, but they are such stark opposites that they can't stand each other.
So Raimi style Wolverine does go to test out like Tobey Maguire style the spider powers, but then he puts on the mask, says it smells, and goes like, "I'm not putting on tights for this kid. The smelly mask is enough."
Yeah, he like refuses to put on the rest of the costume, but at least he respects Peter's secret identity, which is nice.
Yeah.
So he's just crawling around walls in Peter's civilian clothes, but with the Spider-Man mask on. And yeah, he does have that Raimi style, like Tobey Maguire moment of climbing the walls, and then he tries so hard and fails at web swinging a couple of times. It's just like in that first Spider-Man movie. It feels pretty intentional. He like slams into a building and then at a certain point is just like stuck midair and just dangling.
If it took Spider-Man a while to master that, it'll take Wolverine a while.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
Again, they have no idea how to function in each other's bodies and with
Yeah.
each other's skill sets and powers, so it's totally new. And that's
Yeah.
what makes it so funny.
Yeah.
But in the jail, Peter gets one phone call, as you do, and so he places a call to Xavier's, and Kitty Pryde answers the phone. And at first she doesn't believe. She's like, "Oh, Logan?" And then he's like, "No, I'm Spider-Man." And she's like, "Okay, put me on the phone with the Hulk or something." And he explains the whole situation to her in great detail. And she just starts laughing. She's just like laughing hysterically.
I don't blame her. This is a stupid situation, and Wolverine's a dick. So like,
Yeah, but
I would.
this kid's like panicking. He's losing his
She
mind
doesn't
in this
know
old
he's a
man's
kid.
body.
She could think it's a drunk old creep for all we know. She knows.
She's laughing so hard, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Kitty, get it together. Help this guy. You've been in weirder situations than this.
First of all, if this is Spider-Man, maybe she's nervous because we do know she has a crush on him. Second of all, it's a stupid scenario and situation. I'd be laughing too. Like if you called me one day and says, "Hey Josh, I'm in like an old man's body. I'm in Donald Trump's body. Get me out of here." And you say that as Trump. I'm not gonna believe Trump Nabeel. I'm gonna go like, this is this most insane situation
That's
ever.
a fair point. And if I had an opportunity, I would laugh in Trump's face as well.
See?
Even if it was actually you in his body.
Yeah, so like I don't blame Kitty. This is a pretty stupid situation. And also she does get it together eventually when she realizes it's not a prank.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, for the second time, Peter accidentally uses his claws to cut the phone so the line is disconnected.
Yeah.
And then he gets tased again. So
honestly,
he's having a grand old time in jail.
Honestly, I'm surprised he got tased. I expected him to get shot.
Yeah. Luckily, fortunately, that wouldn't have done much for him anyways. It would have hurt like hell, but at least he would have lived.
Also, like, Spider-Man survives bullets. He knows the feeling.
Yeah, that's true. That doesn't mean you want it to happen again.
No.
That's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, after Spider-Man and Wolverine go through their respective trials and tribulations, finally, Logan just busts into the jail and starts beating up cops. There's this panel of him as Spider-Man with the mask, but with Peter's civilian clothes, just beating up a bunch of cops. And Peter's in Logan's body in the cell, and he has no idea what to do. And he does get shot in the head by just a stray bullet. So that does happen. He does actually get shot, and he's like, ow! And then Logan's like, come on, get out. And he's like, I just got shot in the head, man. What the hell? But he manages to teach Peter how to use his claws to jam them in the lock and free himself from his cell.
There's no way that works. Because after reading this comic in high school, I got locked out of my house, and I tried to do that to break into my own house, and it didn't work. I broke the lock. But that's it.
Listen, you don't have adamantium claws, though.
It doesn't matter. Steel can't break into a copper lock. It's a skill. You need special equipment to pickpocket.
I feel like you could make an exception for this fictional unbreakable metal.
At that point, just cut the bar. Yeah, anyway. Also, like, one thing I love about this comic is the whole time, throughout both issues, they're also complaining about the smell of the other guy. Because the mask smells.
I mean, it's mainly Peter complaining about how badly Logan smells.
Because
he hates being stuck in his body, yeah.
He's a big, hairy dick. Let's be honest. He's a monster.
Yeah, and at the same time, what's really funny is that Logan finds himself monologuing the way that Peter monologues to himself, and he even notices it. He's like, dang, I'm even talking to myself now. It's funny how they just inherit a lot of these implicit traits about each other, stuck in each other's bodies.
I feel that's a trope in every body switch show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They start picking up like tendencies of the other person when they're in their body.
Yeah.
But of course, then they both make it to the roof, and they're both yelling at each other and hating like what the other one has done to each other's bodies, and they're frustrated. And finally, of course, then they hear that there's an incident, an explosion, like a few blocks away, and so Peter just like makes his way over there because he can't stand by and let something happen. So Logan reluctantly follows him, and it's the Shocker.
What a shock!
Yeah,
The Shocker
a shocker.
Shocker kind of seems to be afraid of Wolverine more than Spider-Man, though.
But of course, Peter starts quipping in Wolverine's body, and then Wolverine's like, "Dude, stop! I have a reputation to maintain. You're like making me look like an idiot." And it's so funny because they do argue a lot, like in front of Shocker, and they're bickering again, but they get it together pretty quickly and make a good team against him.
I think they beat him up while bickering, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
it's just effortless for him. I mean, partially is that Shocker's just treated as a running gag in these comics, but also they do work well together.
And 616 is not a big threat either, to be honest. He's just kind of
Yeah.
like, and I love how Veda games do that, where they go like, "Oh, the Shocker, you just jump over him and you one punch him."
Yeah, like it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shocker is like the goon supervillain. Like it's like in the movie where you're like you could just get a new Shocker at a certain point.
Yeah, over time he has devolved in the comics to a point where people have taken him less and less seriously writing these comics.
Yeah.
Because he is just a very goofy villain inherently. I love him still. He's so endearing. And I loved reading him in Superior Foes of Spider-Man. I love him in Ultimate Spider-Man too, because spoilers, he will get his revenge eventually. There's a good arc in Ms. Marvel too, where he does kind of pose a threat, so that's pretty cool.
I think that's the thing where a lot of goofy Spider-Man villains are a bigger threat to like other characters. Like to be honest,
Yeah.
like Electro, who's like is on and off a serious guy, is joke character occasionally. He shows up in a Punisher arc, and Punisher has difficulty with him. Shocker, Spider-Man one punches him. He's like a side villain. He's almost never a main villain. When Spider-Man has some drama with MJ, and he's just in the way to delay the date. Well, like exactly. To Miss Marvel, he's like a big threat.
Right, because she's a kid.
Yeah. I think it'll be a big threat to Punisher, to be honestly.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he could even be an Iron Man villain, in my opinion.
Interesting theory.
Yeah, I think he also make a decent Daredevil villain. Like, he's a good street level villain. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
But he's very B-list in terms of Spider-Man villains.
Yeah.
They beat the Shocker, and then finally the X-Men show up.
And they show up in a very dramatic way. They're descending like angels from like their ship.
Yeah, it's almost a full page spread of like all the X-Men. It's like a big group shot, as you have to do anytime a big team like the X-Men shows up.
Yeah.
Descending from their ship to save the day.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that's going to fix them. And of course it's explained then that Jean was the one who did this to them, because she's like, "I told you to stop hitting on me, Logan."
And then Jean goes like, "Yeah, it's I put you in your worst nightmare." And that for some reason was Spider-Man's head.
Yeah, she didn't know that this was gonna do the body swap thing. She was just like, "Oh yeah, I just telepathically put you in a place you would least want to be." And that was being in Peter Parker's body.
And I'll be fair to Jean. She's also a big dick in Ultimate X-Men. She's actually rather polite to Peter and says like, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to get you involved in this. This was completely by accident."
But Peter's like, "Lady, you ruined my life." And he's kind of right. Like, dude, that's so irresponsible. You didn't even know what was going to happen, and now you've ruined this teenage kid's life. And after they get swapped back, then there's this famous panel where Peter just goes off on the X-Men, and he just gets belligerent. He's like, "God, you want to know why people hate you? It's not because you're mutants. It's because you're all a bunch of..." And then it just like censors it out because he's just like cussing them out all on panel.
I think that's mean, but for Ultimate X-Men, there's a grain of truth considering how awful Jean and Professor X and Wolverine are.
And I think the thing is, too, I know, like, with all comic book characters, there's a lot of soap opera, crazy shenanigans that go on in their lives. With X-Men, it is to the extreme. Like, the X-Men go through a lot of time travel, alternate dimension, clones. Spider-Man, of course, has the clone saga and stuff, but you know what I mean, like family dynamics, like love triangles, like there's so much, especially because it's such a large group. So they have all this stuff going on, and now like Spider-Man's been caught in the crossfire of that. And I'm like, yeah, go off, Peter. Like,
Well, to be fair, he spoilers. He does also become very intimate with the X-Men later on, like
Yeah,
X-Men.
hubba hubba.
But no, but Iceman and Kitty Pryde will just become outright Ultimate Spider-Man characters for like 30 issues instead of X-Men characters for a while.
Yeah, and that's a very fun era. I love that era.
I also love the era. It's a very also callback to Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah,
Another fantastic show.
yeah.
Or amazing show, really.
Oh,
Ha ha ha.
but Spider-Man leaves is angry, and Jean goes, "I do kind of feel bad." I'm like, "Good on you, Jean. He didn't do."
But like, do
Poor
something
kid.
to make up for it. Give them like an edible arrangements or something. I don't know.
Or I mean, I guess they just basically sent Kitty Pryde to the Spider-Man comics for a bit.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah, good deal. You get Kitty and Iceman.
Why not?
Yeah.
But then Peter goes back to MJ at the end of the issue and he apologizes. He's basically like, I'm so sorry for the way I behaved.
Yeah.
I wasn't myself. And she forgives him and they hug and everything. And then she's like, hey, that thing you tried to do this morning, can we not do that till we're older? Which is basically like, yikes,
Oh.
Logan tried to do something nasty with MJ that morning.
But it's my proof that Spider-Man is a good, nice, pure virgin. He's from good queens and everything.
I mean, at this point in time, he is a virgin because he and MJ are teenagers. That's not true.
Okay, I know it's not true, but it should be true.
He's in your headcanon, yeah.
He's a good boy from Queens. He's a good boy from Queens.
Josh, I don't mean to put you on blast, but you are not even a virgin.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know why you insist on Peter Parker being a virgin when you are
pure.
not.
He's pure. He's from Queens.
I mean, he's pure of heart, yeah, but that doesn't mean he's a virgin.
Yeah. Also, this is also referenced, by the way, in the Spider-Man TV show, where when Wolverine, Ultimate Wolverine, Peter's body meets MJ. I don't even. They're not even together in the TV show for some reason, but he literally goes, redheads.
It's like she's a teenager, Logan. Chill the fuck out.
Logan, he's always been animalistic. That's the big thing with Wolverine. Like, he's called the Wolverine. Like, that's an animal.
But he's not a sexual predator, is the thing.
I mean,
unless you're talking about Ultimate Wolverine, in which case he is.
Ultimate Wolverine is somehow more animalistic than regular Wolverine. Like, he's hairier. He just wants to mate and kill and hunt. I expect him at one point to just break into a monologue and do like the Penguin one from the Danny DeVito Penguin. Like, I am not a human being. I am an animal. Called like you expect him to do that at one point. Honestly,
I know, it just ruins what I love about Wolverine, especially with main Wolverine. He does have those animal instincts and he does have that side to him, but the whole point of the character, what makes him so appealing, is that he overcomes a lot of that because there's still the man deep down inside, and he's always trying to fight those animal urges and be a better man and to live by a code of honor. And some of my favorite Wolverine stories are about that struggle. The Wolverine miniseries by Claremont and Frank Miller, where he's in Japan, right? And things like that. It's all about him trying to do better and to be a better man and to win out against those animal urges. And in Ultimate X-Men, they're like, nah, Wolverine's just like a piece of shit.
He's an animal. The other one I liked was when X-23, I forgot Laura was Wolverine for a bit. But one big thing is that like she meets people and they all talk about like, oh, like, are you like related to Wolverine? Because he's such a good guy. Like, he was rough, but like I appreciate it. I love him because like deep down I saw how kind he is. He rescued these people. He did so much for the community. Like there is this good side to Wolverine. And here he's just a beast.
Yeah, he just sucks.
He's a monster.
He's just kind of an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a fun couple of issues.
Yeah.
So then we move on to our next 2-part team-up story with the Human Torch is featured. Issue 68 opens at the Baxter Building, home of the Fantastic Four, famously. And Sue, the Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, comes to her brother Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. They're all like sitting around at the table. She's like, we talked to Dad, like their father, and he said, you need to finish high school because you've got like just a semester left of high school and Dad really wants you to finish. And he's like, this is ridiculous though. Like, you didn't even graduate. And Sue's like, I have 4 doctorates.
Which is such a weird statement. Like, so you did graduate. And 4 doctorates, that's another weird thing. But
Yeah.
Johnny's like, oh, but like I'm a superstar, and she goes like, we don't know what's gonna happen. The powers could fade eventually, or we just won't be
Yeah.
famous anymore. So
And you'll just be like a washed up child actor if you don't like get an education, actually do something with your life other
like
than coasting on your fame.
like Aaron Carter, if you remember him.
And I don't. And I think that proves your point.
Yeah, he was a big deal in the 2000s.
I'm sure he was. I have no. I'm sure if I googled him, I would figure out who that was, but I
Yeah,
have no idea.
yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, then we cut to Midtown High where Johnny will be enrolled, and of course we cut to immediately Peter getting tripped in the hallway by Kong,
mhm.
who's laughing his head off. And MJ and Liz are chewing out Flash and Kong because they're just being idiots
Yeah.
typically. And even Peter's like, dude, what the hell? I thought we were going somewhere, like we were cool with each other. And Kong's like, come on, that was funny.
Kong, I feel, is like a personality that's has to be number two. If it's Peter, he's gonna be
Yeah.
nice and sweet. But if it's Flash, he's gonna be assisting Flash and being a bully.
Yeah, he pretty much acts, however, the more dominant personality, Josh would say, is
Oh,
in the room. Yeah,
yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
picking up Josh's lingo.
I know. Also, we find out Midtown is in Queens, which is funny because Midtown High, the official name of Midtown High that Molten Marvel gives, is a real school in Staten Island. So fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, fun little thing.
Yeah, cool little detail. And the crowd starts chanting for Peter and Kong to fight and everything. And then in the crowd in the background, Liz Allen spots Johnny
Yeah,
just like standing around. He's been enrolled at Midtown High.
yeah.
There's hearts around her face, and so she's instantly fallen head over heels for this guy.
She's a horn dog.
I mean, she's a teenage girl. I mean, teenagers are horn dogs.
Not me. Just saying.
You weren't a horn
I
dog
was
when you were a
not. I
teenager?
was not.
Did you ever hit puberty?
I did.
And you were not a horn dog?
Yeah, because I was a good boy.
I refuse to believe you.
But the reason Johnny chose the school, he literally says, "Send me to a regular school, no more flashy," and he goes, "Like in Queens." So
Yep. So he goes to the same high school as Peter Parker now.
yeah,
And Liz goes up to MJ and is like, hey, can you like talk to this guy? And she's talking about Johnny. And MJ's like, come on, I got a guy already. That means I don't have to talk to guys anymore.
she doesn't say guy. She says, "I got a pretty boy already," which means I don't have
A
to talk
pretty
to.
boy.
I don't have to talk to other pretty boys. Like, no, Peter should not be a pretty boy.
I mean, he is, though.
He's not a twink.
I don't know what you're trying to project on this character.
It's ugly. There's scenes where
He's
people refer
not,
to Peter Parker as not being that good looking.
which is not true. He's a pretty good looking guy.
That's because they draw him a certain way, you know? They can't draw us ugly Americans right the way we're supposed to be drawn.
I will never understand your headcanons. But then, yeah, MJ's like, yeah, guys like self-confidence. Go talk to him. And then she calls over Peter, and both Liz and Peter are like, no, don't call me over. And then Liz is like, man, you're basically just like Peter. And she calls she calls her Mary Jane Watson Parker, which I think is really funny. A really fun reference to the fact that at the time in 616, Peter and MJ were married, and MJ took the name. She was Mary Jane Watson Parker.
That's
her
a
full
very
name.
long name. That's like British aristocrat level.
Yeah.
Like lengthy.
It does have a nice ring to it, though. And Liz
Mary
even says
Jane
it
Watson
has a nice
Parker, like,
ring to it.
you gotta take a breath after that name. Like,
That's not that bad.
just like
There are
Mary
longer
Watson
names.
Parker. True, but Mary Watson Parker is better. Or MJ Watson Parker.
MJ Watson Parker.
MJ Watson.
That
Okay,
sounds
that one.
like a law firm or something.
That is true. I bet if there probably is a law firm out there called MJ Watson Parker.
I'm sure. Yeah, we'll have to get back to everyone next episode after we do some Googling.
We could like keep them on retainer as like the official podcast corporate lawyers.
If we can afford that.
We'll sue the other Ultimate Comics podcast that's out there because we had the name longer technically.
Just kidding. If you guys are listening, there will be no law. Don't sue us, and we won't sue you. We're at an armistice.
Yeah. Johnny tries to use his powers, but Reed goes like, "Hey, I'm spying on you for your dad. You're gonna live a normal human life." And goes like, "You don't want to be bullied like Spider-Man and the mutants." I read the newspapers.
Yeah, it's really funny in this arc how Reed is trying to get Johnny to blend in and the rest of the Fantastic Four to blend in because he's like, have you seen the PR for
Hmm.
Spider-Man or mutants? We don't want to be them, so lay low. And MJ goes up to Johnny after this and accidentally introduces herself as Mary Jane Watson Parker, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's this really awkward exchange, but very endearing and funny. It reads a lot like how teenagers would actually talk in this case.
Yeah. She is blushing, and I think Johnny thinks she's hitting on it, but she goes, "No, I'm married. I mean, I'm dating, and I'm talking
Yeah.
for my friend."
Yeah, it like takes her forever to get to the point of why she's there because she's like, "Oh, I actually have a boyfriend." And he's like, "Thanks for coming over to tell me that, I guess." And she's like, "Okay, but there's this other girl, this friend of mine, and there's this really funny exchange where he's like, "All right, but is she a good person?" And he's like, "Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, she's good." And he's like, "All right, you're not trying to set me up with the crazy one in the group. You tell me, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I
Well, she
swear."
is a crazy one in the group, technically.
She could have led with the fact that Liz is pretty bigoted and mutant phobic, but we'll get there.
Which is funny and ironic, by the way.
Yeah, we'll get to why that's funny and ironic too.
Yeah. It also involves that story also involves Johnny because he also becomes a Spider-Man character for a bit.
No, totally.
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Hey, we're all hanging out in the parking lot later if you want to join us." He joins them in the parking lot later. And then while Liz and Johnny are off to the side, we still get a reminder of everything that's happened recently in Ultimate Spider-Man. MJ's still reassuring Peter, who still feels guilty, of course, over Gwen's death. And they're still both mourning, but she's like, "It wasn't your fault." And there's this nice moment between the two of them where she's like, "Let's go on a really fancy date. Let's dress up and go to this really nice place."
And
And
spend how little money we have left on it.
yeah, it's very funny and cute. It's really nice. And they're both very enthusiastic about it. Of course, it's great until MJ kind of kills the mood at the end, being like, "I'm so glad you're not Spider-Man so much anymore." And then
Mhm.
he kind of gets dour and somber, and she's like, "Damn it, I killed the mood."
It's also kind of funny because earlier she was into him because he was Spider-Man, and now she's like, "I like you because when you're not doing the Spider-Man stuff."
I mean, she was into him before he was Spider-Man.
Okay,
We've had
but
this argument before,
okay, but she
Josh.
okay,
You're
fine.
not going to win this
Let's
one.
just say you're right. Let's just say you're right. She still said, "Oh my gosh, I'm best friends and dating a superhero. That's so cool."
She was basically like, "Oh, wow, that's cool. You're like a rock star."
Yeah,
But then she understood all the risks and the gravity that came with that, and she's like, "Oh man, this is a lot."
yeah. It's like dating a firefighter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like it's a weird time too in this arc where Peter's kind of Spider-Man, but he's kind of not because he
yeah.
will still dress up every now and then, like in these stories, but at the same time, he's not actively going out so much anymore
Hmm.
because of the promise he made after Gwen died.
Yeah. Spider-Man no more.
Okay, Toby. But
But also, like, if we're assuming this takes place after the Wolverine stuff, the thing is, sometimes once you're in that life, it sucks you in forever. You can't leave, you know?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's clear that he still has this compulsion to go out, even though he doesn't really want to because he feels guilty over everything that happened with Gwen. But he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place of guilt. He's
Yeah.
like, "I'm guilty about what happened to Gwen and how my loved ones keep getting hurt, but I'd also be guilty over the fact that if I don't do something, someone is going to get hurt." So he's very much torn in
Yeah.
this weird state of limbo,
Like Serpico. You never seen
whatever
that?
that means.
You never seen
No,
that? Okay, never
no.
mind.
But yeah, then Liz comes up to Peter and MJ, and she's like, "Oh, this is so exciting!" And she's like, "You have a date?" And she's like, "Yeah, Friday night at Rockaway Beach. I told my mom that we'd all be going because my mom didn't want me going alone with this boy."
Yeah, but she's like, if you two show up, you're like the goody two shoes. Like, she'll let me come if you guys come. And Peter's like, well, I
Yeah.
don't feel like it. And MJ goes, I'll wear a bikini. He goes, oh, I'm coming. That's just a nasty little horn dog all of a sudden.
Yeah, I knew you would love these issues because it's just full of teenage horn dogs.
No, that makes me sound like a creep.
No, I mean sarcastically because I
Yeah,
know how much you rail against the horn dogginess.
yeah. Man, like, I hate horn dogs, Some of these issues, this island of Brooklyn, everything.
Wow. Well, and then we cut to the beach, and Johnny's shirtless and in the water, and he's in the foreground, and all the girls are ogling him, going like, "Wow, look at him! He doesn't have an ounce of fat on him." Kong is there.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know who Kong showed up with, but he's just there,
I think
and
he's
he's just
just.
not happy about it.
I think he's just the number two guy. Like if it's Flash, he'll go with Flash. If it's Peter, he'll just be Peter's sidekick for like a day.
Yeah, poor Kong. He just like shows up wherever.
I do know like it's a thing in personalities where they do go like there are some people who just like being number two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
I took a
I do not.
I took a personality test. Apparently, like I was like, oh, you just like being the number two.
Yeah.
I got it
Are you the
apparently,
number two in this scenario?
and I guess so, huh?
Damn.
Yeah.
I hate being the dominant personality.
They
But
talk
then,
about
mhm.
Spider-Man, I think, because of course they talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah, because it's like everyone who showed up plus like a bunch of kids from other schools later, like at night, and they're all surrounding a bonfire on the beach. And the Midtown High kids are talking about how the Green Goblin came to their school and all the craziness that went with that, and about how they saw Spider-Man and everything. And Johnny actually in this version really loves Spider-Man, and he goes on this whole thing about like, yeah, Spider-Man's making a difference and he stands for something and he's just out to help people, which is very different from the original comics, where I feel like in the original 616 comics in the 60s, the Fantastic Four were the cool ones and they were in the foreground, and Spider-Man was always trying to be as cool as the Fantastic Four and get his name as big as the Fantastic Four. And characters like the Human Torch, there was a rivalry with Spider-Man and the Human Torch, famously, and the Human Torch kind of looked down on Spider-Man more. It's so weird in this version where now Johnny actually really looks up to Spider-Man and he aspires to be like that.
Because in this one, the big thing is they actually are talking about the Fantastic Four are not public yet, and Spider-Man
Yeah,
has been in the game a slightly longer. But it's also just
yeah,
skipping the drama because in the comics, Johnny and Spider-Man are big friends too.
that's true.
Yeah,
They have like a frenemies relationship, which is a lot of fun in
yeah,
the original comics, and I like that love-hate relationship between the two of them. But deep down, they are like best friends, really.
yeah. Johnny is the only other character who drives the Spider-Mobile.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
he helped Peter create the Spider-Mobile. They worked on it together.
The
But
thing
yeah,
that does cause a rivalry in 616 is not existent here because Spider-Man's been a hero longer and the Fantastic Four are not public yet.
yeah, they haven't gone public
Which
yet.
is the big reason the lead spying on Johnny is that he says like, "Hey, your dad doesn't want us. Wants us. We're still a secret. We're not public yet. Until we are, we can't reveal ourselves."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's why it becomes such a big issue at the end of the first part of this storyline in issue 68. At the end, Johnny gets too close to the bonfire and accidentally flames on in front
yeah,
of all these kids, and they all just look on in horror.
yeah. And
It's
he
this
flies
big
up.
double-page spread. Yeah. And he's just flying in the air and he's flamed on. It's
Yeah,
like, yikes. Whoops.
yeah. And the next issue just kind of starts where this ends. Like Liz Allen runs away because she's like a kind of a bigot towards mutants.
Yeah, she's scared and she runs off. And then Johnny turns to Peter and MJ and just asks them to apologize to Liz for him and says he never really meant to scare anyone and he's
Yeah.
sorry. And he flies off, and Peter and MJ are like, "What just happened?"
MJ goes like, why didn't you attack him?" He goes like, "Why? He didn't do anything."
Yeah, he's like, "What was I gonna do? He wasn't attacking anyone." And she's like, "I don't know."
Yeah. He's just doing his thing.
Yeah, and then we cut to the Baxter building, and Johnny is sitting around being all sullen and brooding, and this is a real fun moment. It's Sue checks in on him. She's his older sister, but she also is a lot like a mother figure to him a lot of the
Yeah.
time. And she's like checking in on him, and he's like, "I'm not going back to school." And she's like, "What happened?" And it's this really sweet moment where she like puts her hand on his shoulder, and it's this very sweet, tender, like caring moment where, of course, they're siblings, so they have this banter and this bickering and this mocking of each other. But at the end of the day, like, Sue is there for Johnny, and she's like, "All right, like real talk, like what happened? Are you all right?"
She also asks him like, "Was the girl special?" And he goes, "Yeah."
Yeah,
She's concerned.
yeah, and I think Johnny gets a reputation for being this goofier, less serious character on the FF, but he does still have more serious moments as well, and there is a deeper side to this character, as we see in moments like this.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Midtown High, and Liz and MJ are standing outside the school, and Liz doesn't want to go in because she knows she's going to get mocked for this, even though
Yeah.
MJ's like, yeah, you didn't do anything. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with you. And she's like,
Yeah.
they're still going to mock me. And
Yeah.
of course they do, because they're like, hey, Liz, like, is your boyfriend hot or what? And they all start laughing at
Flash
her.
is a dick.
Yeah, as usual.
Yeah.
On cue. And of course, later on, Peter and MJ walk out to the parking lot,
And they
and
meet
Johnny's
Johnny.
waiting there.
In
Yeah.
disguise.
Yeah, of course he's wearing the classic sunglasses and beanie look.
the classic celebrity disguise.
Yeah, he's like, I'm here with my family.
I also have no idea if that works, because, like, I guess it works, but then, like, paparazzi still catches them in that disguise anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's not super effective.
Yeah.
You see it all the time in the MCU with the baseball cap and the sunglasses, and you're like, all right, who are you fooling here?
Okay, I've Captain America. No one knows what he looks like, you know?
I would never miss Chris Evans
really?
out there on site. Yeah, he's got a distinct jawline.
You would always notice Chris Evans if you see him in Boston, just going like, "I want a coffee," and he's wearing like the sunglasses and the hat. You go like, "Okay, you wouldn't."
Oh,
you,
yeah.
you would recognize that as Chris Evans.
You have no idea how many times I've watched Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
He doesn't. That's not. He doesn't look like Chris Evans in Captain America, because like
I've seen interviews. I've seen the beards. I've seen all his different looks.
Okay.
And I would know that voice anywhere.
Okay. Well, he has an accent in real life, I think.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, Johnny's asking Peter and MJ about Liz and if she's around. And they're like, who are you? Of course, the Fantastic Four haven't gone public, so he's like, I can't say anything about who I am. But he's like, I'm not a mutant. I'm not a bad guy. And MJ's like, yeah, I don't know. MJ's pretty mutant phobic. And he's like, I'm not a mutant.
Not that there's anything wrong with this. Also, what he adds.
It's really funny how he's like, not that there's anything wrong with that, like in Seinfeld. But MJ's like, yeah, I don't think it's a good chance of you seeing Liz again. She just has issues in general with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then he goes like, well, if she wants it, like, I'll meet her at this location at this spot.
Yeah.
And he,
so he's like, meet me at the park at like 5:00 or whatever.
Very Taylor Swift, It's like that song, meet me at the park at like this time.
I don't know which song you're talking about.
It's from Romeo and Juliet, the song.
Oh.
Yeah, you get it.
Romeo, save me, I've been feeling so.
How do you know this song?
I love Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah, no,
Isn't that Love Story?
I like Taylor Swift, but I don't like her well enough to know the differences between some of the songs. Romeo, yeah, that's Romeo and Juliet.
I think it's just called Love Story.
Is it called just Love Story? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Romeo and Juliet are mentioned several times throughout the song, but it's just Love
I just
Story.
assumed it was called Romeo and Juliet. So.
Anyways, I hope y'all have enjoyed our rendition of Love Story by Taylor Swift on this episode of the Ultimate Comics Podcast.
I just learned so much about Nabeel from this podcast. Just talking.
I learn more about you every episode, Josh.
I learned you love Sex of the City. You love Miranda, with all the reference to Miranda and Carrie.
Well, that's blatantly false. I think you're projecting hard here.
And now I know you like Tay-Tay. The T-Swizzle.
I will admit to being a Swiftie, but you definitely are into Sex in the City. You keep calling me a Miranda.
Whoa. That's a big accusation.
It's true.
Just like the
Check
show,
the tapes.
Mr. Big.
How would you know about Mr. Big?
Let's move past.
Anyways. So then after Johnny leaves and apologizes again, MJ encourages Peter to go meet Johnny as Spider-Man and kind of make him feel better, because Johnny, of course, looks up to Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good point that she makes, because she's like, yeah, you can help people without using your fists and without violence. You can just talk to this kid and help him out.
Yeah.
And I like MJ's role in these issues, where she's very helpful for pretty much everyone. Like, she's helping Liz out, she's helping Peter out and Johnny out, and she's encouraging Peter to do good things as Spider-Man that don't necessarily involve beating a bad guy.
Kind of like how in the PS4 and the MCU, MJ does have this advisory role where she's kind of like the heart of Peter.
Yeah, no, totally.
And so Liz obviously doesn't come to meet Johnny, but Spider-Man does. And he was like, hey, it's like the classic thing was like, I was just totally swinging by and I noticed you here, kid.
He makes up this really funny excuse where he's like, oh, I have this sense that where I detect people with powers nearby. I'm like, that's not far off from your spider sense, but he does fudge a little bit and like fib about what his powers really are.
Or like in the Spider-Verse movie where he could detect other spider people.
That's true. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
similar to that for sure.
yeah. And also, like, no one knows much about Spider-Man, so it's not like they know better at this point.
Yeah, and the public eye, like no one really knows the full extent of his powers, so that could be true for all Johnny knows.
Yeah.
But of course, yeah, Johnny's so starstruck and he's like, oh my gosh, is that really you? Spider-Man does a flip for him and everything. And he's like, oh my gosh, like I'm such a big fan. And he starts getting into his problems with Spider-Man and he's like, yeah, I'm having problems with girls. And is this difficult for you? And it was really funny because they're talking and he's like, yeah, my family and I, we haven't gone public because you're like the worst case scenario, is what he says to Spider-Man. He's like, you've shown us how bad it can be with PR and media coverage, so we're not going public until we think we're ready.
Yeah.
Which is like, damn, the shade, that's so rough. Sorry, Spidey.
It's when he also mentions Sue Storm offhand, and Spider-Man goes like, "Oh, I love Sue Storm. Read all of her work."
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like how Peter in the main universe thinks about Reed, where he's like, oh, I've read all his work and all his research, and I'm such a huge fan. Of course, Peter Parker, being such a science nerd, would look up to scientists like Reed and Sue in the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
They're in the middle of this conversation and exchanging a bunch of information about themselves, and then, of course, there's a big fire across town, so Peter, as Spider-Man, goes to try and stop it and help people, and Johnny
tags along. He tags along.
Yeah, Johnny tags along. And Peter is rescuing people from the fire, and he rescues a babysitter, and she's like, the kid's still in there. It's very much like that scene in the first Spider-Man movie, where it's like, oh, there's some people still in there. And he's like, I'll be here when you get back. I'm not coming back, Chief.
And the good thing about this one, though, is that because he's not in danger as much, because Johnny's there to absorb the fire, and he actually absorbs a decent amount and shoots it into the atmosphere, which I think is a reference to, like, in 616, Johnny, it's not just like, oh, he turns on fire and he flies. Like, he is very powerful with that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think it's funny at first because Peter's like, I don't know, what can you do? And then he's like, hey, can you control the fire? Can you absorb the flames? And he does. So Johnny absorbs the flames so that way Peter can get in and save the kid. And then there's this page of Johnny just expelling the flames into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I find it so funny because I'm like, Peter, why didn't you just bring the guy who you know can control fire with you to stop the fire? Like, duh. It's so funny. I was like, yeah, that was such a no-brainer solution, dude.
Yeah. Johnny gets a taste for heroism about like what it feels to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And he likes it.
And he's so exhilarated by this experience. He's like, this is so cool. I feel great about what we did. And Peter's coughing up a lung from all the smoke and everything from the fire. But then, of course, the police show up and Peter's like, we gotta go. Johnny's like, oh, aren't they gonna hail us as heroes? He's like, no. And of course, the police are like, freeze. And he's like, come on. And so they have to leave behind Johnny's favorite jacket. And
he leaves on a utility pole, by the way.
Yeah, it's just hanging on a utility pole at the park.
Yeah, and someone steals it.
Yeah. And so Peter and Johnny are talking on the roof, and of course Spider-Man's like, hey, this is par for the course. The girl that things didn't work out with, the jacket you lost, the cops not being on your side, the public, half of the people loving you and half of them hating you. That's what it's like. And he imparts a good deal of wisdom, because he's like, yeah, some people just are looking for something to be scared of. The other half of people are just grateful and can see the truth and happy that we do what we do. And Johnny's like, well, is it worth it? And he's like, yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice like lesson of wisdom that he brings on his fellow like teenage superhero. He's like, this is what it's like. This is the gig. This is what you sign up for as a hero.
Yeah. It shows that Spider-Man, because he's not a newer hero. At this point, he is probably one of the older heroes in Ultimate Marvel. He is becoming a mentor figure to some of these characters.
Yeah, he's not big time like the Ultimates or anything, but he has experience, even though he is just a teenager. He's been through quite a bit for someone his age.
Yeah.
So it's cool that he gets to impart wisdom on anyone, especially someone who's closer to his age and hasn't gone fully public yet. And I kind of thought, reading this years ago, before they announced anything related to the Fantastic Four, I was like, this would be a cool way to introduce the Human Torch and the Fantastic Four to the MCU. I could totally see Tom Holland's Spider-Man imparting this wisdom on a young Human Torch.
Yeah. Did you know for the original Spider-Verse, they did film a scene with Tom Holland where he offers wisdom to Miles Morales, but they cut it out. But Tom Holland said he filmed it or recorded
Damn.
it. Yeah. I think it was
I
like
would love to hear that.
it's a scene where Miles Morales hears like other Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man goes like, "It's okay, kid. Like we're with you," or something.
That sounds pretty cool. I'd
Yeah.
love to see that.
Yeah, it got cut, unfortunately. But that's a good line.
Yeah, totally.
Also, thank God Tom Holland goes on rants about like what got cut and stuff. Because
Yeah.
like, I'm glad we
Otherwise,
know.
we never would have known.
Yeah, because some of these are really good info. It's like what we're talking about. We wish we knew some of the drama that goes on with some of these writers and artists.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the issue ends with the two of them just shaking hands, Spider-Man and the Human Torch, and parting ways.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, yeah, we should do this again sometime. And the Human Torch is like, yeah, when we go public, I'd love for us to team up again. And Spider-Man's like, how will I know when you'll go public? And he's like, oh, you'll know. And he just flies off. It's the Human Torch.
Yeah, and the Fantastic Four are like the celebrity heroes of Marvel.
They're very flashy and very like visible, so except for the Invisible Woman, of course.
But that's the point of the Invisible Woman.
That's the whole point of her power, though.
Kind of reminds me of the way we're talking about like in Deadpool, where they goes like the Invisible Guy, and like they just can't see him. They go like, oh
yeah, Vanisher. Issues 70 and 71 are then Doctor Strange two-parter begins with Peter and MJ go on their fancy date that they were talking about. It's really funny. They're all dressed up. He's in his suit. She's in her dress and everything. And it's a really funny comment about how MJ looks like a model, which is a fun little reference to the fact that the main MJ is a model / actress.
Yeah. I just love how like that's such a stereotypical like beautiful girl career, and they just stuck her with it. I think recently they moved to making her more of a journalist, I think.
No, that's true.
Yeah, kind of like Lois Lane, but
I mean, that's mainly because of the PS4 series, like the PlayStation games for Spider-Man. Like in the comics, she still does the modeling / acting gig. But yeah.
Actually, I don't know if it's from this, but the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, she's a journalist too.
Oh,
so it's actually before the PS4.
That's crazy.
Also, just like the Wolverine episode, there is an Ultimate Spider-Man TV show episode about this.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are on that date, and everything's too expensive, and Peter goes and tells MJ the story about how he met this magician earlier, who's obviously Doctor Strange, but yeah, it does go into this deep dive on Peter and his headspace. I think these issues are very focused on where his head is at, and it's pretty stressful and depressing and dark, and like goes to where he is, especially post Ultimate Carnage.
Yeah.
Where it's the first few pages too of the story it's a wall of text on one side and just the images on the left side, and it's just Peter talking about how he can't focus in class. He hasn't been able to focus since being Spider-Man, about how being Spider-Man has kind of like ruined his life in a lot of ways, and especially with Gwen dying, he like looks at her empty desk, and it stresses him out. So he has to leave to go web swinging around the city. And he's web swinging, and he's like, this is the only release I can get and the only relief I can get and sense of freedom.
Yeah.
Even though he has no idea why he's still Spider-Man and why he has no idea why he still does this. And he keeps seeing a downside to everything. And everything he does, there's always a catch, and there's always something that's going to go wrong.
Yeah. And what depresses him is that he fights alongside the Ultimates. He basically saves them. Not that they're losing, but they kind of tie with this villain. And Spider-Man just goes behind him and like kicks him in the head.
Yeah, they're fighting Deathlock, which is very funny because I don't think he's shown up in this universe yet. But Deathlock is a very fun, kind of obscure Marvel character, pretty cool. And he has no idea why they're fighting or what the circumstances are, but he has this cool emphasis on how the Ultimates are really like the pros. They're like the athletes or the celebrities that he looks up to. And so it's pretty cool how he gets to come in and save the day. He like kicks Deathlock from behind, but of course they still won't tell him what this was all about. They're like, national security, sorry.
But it's nice because Captain America and Iron Man thank him. They go, thanks, kid.
Yeah, I mean, they're very grateful.
Yeah.
Characters like Hawkeye are kind of a dick to him.
And Spider-Man's kind of go like, is this what life is? Like, you deal with bullies as a kid, and then you deal with bullies as an adult?
Yeah, really. He's kind of like fed up, and he goes on this whole internal monologue too while he's at the Daily Bugle about how all he's dealing with just angry jerks and he's sick of all these angry people. It's a lot of emphasis on just people being angry in the world and how that's making him angry and he's done dealing with all this,
Yeah.
you know. And then finally in the story, J. Jonah Jameson takes Peter into his office and he's dispatching him on an assignment.
Mm-hmm.
He talked about dispatching him on with Ben Urich, one of the reporters, to cover Doctor Strange. And Urich is very much against this. He's like, it's a puff piece. It's not important at all. But Jameson's like, I'm assigning it to you. Like, it's important.
And
you guys got to cover
you gotta
it.
take Peter, because like Peter, like I promise you'll go with the reporter. Peter's like, I didn't even know you remember that. And he goes like, well, I remember it now. You're going with Ben for Doctor Strange.
Yeah, exactly.
And also fix your clothing. He goes like, my tie? And he goes like, yes. I don't remember the exact. It's like something stupid.
Yeah, he's like, what are you wearing? And he's like, what? My suit and tie? I don't know. What's wrong with that?
He's just going up like J. Jonah. Like, less so with Ultimate. He has like the good intentions. He's just also a dick. It's like a bad combo of like he's a jerk with like good. Though to be fair, I think like regular J. Jonah Jameson is also like just a dick to Peter and Spider-Man in general, but like no one else.
But like deep down, he is a good guy. Yeah. He has good intentions.
Yeah.
And he does follow up on his promise, and he sends Peter along on an assignment with Ben Urich to go shadow a reporter.
It kind of reminds me of J.K. Simmons' J. Jonah Jameson, where he would like give commands and forget about it, and he goes like, "Who ordered this stupid crap? You did, sir. Well, send it back."
He's like, "Oh, yeah, like okay then,"
because he just doesn't know how to respond. But also, like that, even that J. Jonah is good inside because he defends Peter and tries to protect him from the Goblin. So
exactly, yeah. And then of course Peter's telling the story, and he has no memory of meeting Doctor Strange from before, but they did meet during Ultimate Marvel Team Up for a couple of issues. But at the end of that, his memory was wiped at the end by Doctor Strange.
Yeah, which is kind of a dick move, but like Peter keeps going, like I don't know this guy, but I feel like I know him. But this version of Doctor Strange is like one of the weirder. It's a little convoluted, and I don't know why they go with, but they do the classic Doctor Strange origin. His father was a great surgeon who lost his hands, spent all his money trying to fix the hands, and then he became a sorcerer, had a relationship with Clea, one of his students, which is not cool these days. And 616 kind of points it out, where Clea goes like, you did like use your teacher advantage of me to sleep with me.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, it's like all in the past, but still, like, he's disappeared, and his son's now the new Doctor Strange, who's now more like an Oprah character because he's called the Magician to the Stars.
Yeah, this version of Doctor Strange in Ultimate is really just the son of the original Doctor Strange. Yeah. But yeah, like you're saying, he does mainly just handle celebrity clients and stuff, and he's a little bit more of a joke generally.
Yeah, which is a shame because Doctor Strange is like one of the most powerful like Marvel characters. Like without the power cosmic, he can stand up to like guys with the Infinity Gauntlet and power cosmic. He could see he does solo against Galactus occasionally. Doctor Doom like respects him. So
no, totally. Yeah. But it makes sense for Ultimate. I think they were going for a younger angle for this universe and for this take on the characters.
I get a younger take where, like, we started with Doctor Strange as a doctor, as a young doctor, and he becomes Doctor Strange like they do in the MCU. That makes sense. This one, it's a bit odd, like, because it's such a TMZ Oprah-esque way of doing things. So that makes sense, yeah. To be fair, Oprah was very big in the area, but,
Yeah. No, it is a different take on it, and that can be pretty divisive and controversial, but I think it's important that they at least tried something new and something different, so we don't just get the same story over and over again. Yeah. This isn't the best version of Doctor Strange, honestly, but at the same time, I'm glad they did something different.
Yeah.
But Peter and Ben arrive at the Sanctum Sanctorum, and Wong kind of rudely turns them away and says it's a bad time and just slams the door in their faces.
Yeah.
And Ben is just like, all right, want to grab dinner? And Peter's like, I got to get home.
He goes like, where you live?
Yeah, and he's like, Queens. And he's like, you're on your own, kid.
That's such a dick move.
Yeah.
Have you walked around much of New York City and like across the different boroughs?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, it is a hassle to get to certain boroughs. Like it takes an hour to get from Queens to Brooklyn, to be fair.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of fair for Ben to be like, I would have given you a ride, but he probably lives like in Manhattan somewhere, and he's like, I can't go to
I
Queens.
do like how people are just generally nice-ish to Peter. They're like, I'm willing to buy you lunch and buy you dinner if it's not too inconvenient.
Yeah,
That's nice. Like
yeah,
Ben is like a good mentor-esque figure to Peter,
no, that's
which
true.
he owes Peter because Peter also just did all of his work for the Kingpin by stealing the evidence from Kingpin. That's Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But he doesn't know that.
yeah.
And then Peter, then after Ben leaves, changes to Spider Man because he's like, something's up in the sanctum. And he looks through the window of the Sanctum Sanctorum and he sees Wong performing some strange ritual on
Aha!
Doctor Strange.
Oh no, this is
And
not Doctor Strange. This is Mr. Strange.
right, he never got his PhD or his doctorate.
Yeah, medical degree.
He never got his medical
Yeah.
degree. It cuts back to Peter and MJ sitting at dinner, and it's this weird thing where MJ goes on this whole thing about, oh, people would kill to be you, and they'd love to have your life. You've got all these great things going for you. And she's like, what are you, 15, 16? And Peter's like, you know my
And
age.
she goes, it's just a thing people say when they say you're young.
Yeah. And so then she's like, well, what happened next? And he's like, the last thing he does remember in the story is just confronting Wong and then passing out immediately.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think I stopped the bad guy,
Mhm.
but I don't know. And that's how you know for sure something's wrong and like this story actually didn't end well.
Because MJ is also slowly transforming into like a demonic, nightmarish like creature, and Peter's like getting surrounded by his nightmares.
Yeah, it's a good twist at the end of issue 70. It's like, oh, dang, all right, this is different. Like, this is not what we expected.
We see Horndog stuff. He's afraid of Black Cat making out with Dr. Octopus. He sees Green Goblin marrying Aunt May, which I think is a play on Dr. Octopus almost marrying Aunt May at one point.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And you see haunting visions of Gwen and Uncle Ben, of course, the people who have been closest to him who have died.
Yeah.
Around him. So the issue 70 ends with him just surrounded by his nightmares. That's most of issue 71, but issue 71 does open with Strange waking up and he sees both Wong and Spider-Man are unconscious in the sanctum. And he is very much an amateur, this young version of Doctor Strange, or Mr. Strange, I guess. He barely remembers the spell to like free Wong because Wong has like webbing on his mouth from Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And when he gets the webbing off, he also accidentally takes off Wong's shirt. So this guy barely has any idea of what he's doing. Yeah. He's pretty clueless.
What Spider-Man did was break into the Sanctum Sanctorum, the brownstone in Manhattan. Spider-Man broke into the window to save Mr. Strange from Wong.
It turned out Wong was really just trying to save Strange from this demon that had taken him over.
Because Strange was being an idiot.
Yeah. Again, this version of Strange is an amateur because he forgot to summon his protection spell before he meditated with Wong, and that's how the demon attacked him. Peter was just trying to help, of course, but he interfered during the whole exorcism process, and now this demon is attacking Peter instead. And so we cut into this dreamscape, this nightmare realm that Peter's in throughout this issue, where he's attacked by a bunch of his old villains, and then it cuts to the family picnic that was on home video back during the Venom arc that he found of his parents, Eddie Brock's parents, and Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And then, of course, he sees Uncle Ben turning into this rotting corpse, and then he sees everyone at the picnic dead.
Yeah.
And Eddie Brock is looming over the page, taunting him, saying that he'll come back and he'll make his life misery and all this stuff. And then, of course, he sees Gwen's dead body, and then Harry turns around and he's like, do you want to join her? And he kicks him into the river. There's all this horrible stuff going on. Meanwhile, Strange is struggling to learn more about this demon and read up on it. And he's like, why does no one alphabetize all these creatures and these spells? And
this really is.
He's very much an amateur.
It's like the worst version of of Strange. Like, I really don't like this version. It's so unnecessary, just making him the son of Doctor Strange to go for this Oprah.
I like this better than Ultimate Wolverine, I'll tell you that.
Okay, he has better morals than Ultimate Wolverine, but like, just like what we read about him, like he kind of sounds like a cult leader.
I mean, he does just sound like kind of a hoax, just an amateur hour magician that's meant there to appease celebrities and the rich and famous. He doesn't really sound like he actually handles very serious things very often.
Which is like, so in Marvel, like Ultimate Marvel, who's doing the magic, who's stopping the magic monsters? No one.
Yeah.
Like, it does kind of sound like he is. In my opinion, it's like a cult because he's like all the celebrities go to him for problems. So he has some magic, I guess, because he's like helping
Yeah.
celebrities.
And I think this arc really is all about how he's really still learning. And I think this is a big catalyst for like, oh, I need to be ready and I need to train more and I need to practice more. So I kind of like that about this. He's still very amateur hour and he's realizing, oh, I'm out of my element here.
It kind of reminds me how Peter Parker originally wanted to use Spider-Man to be like as a vessel for fame and fortune, because he still tries to do the right thing. He's just also more focused on celebrity stuff, and you know, but he has a good heart
Yeah,
deep
and
down.
status and fame and fortune.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he does want to do the right thing.
yeah,
And then we cut back to Peter in his nightmare, and he seemingly wakes up from the nightmare, and then it's like a shadow of
yeah.
Elektra, but it's really MJ's face in the Elektra outfit, and she throws a sigh at him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's being held down by all the women in his life, and MJ tells him Peter he's just going to kill her just by knowing her and she's going to be the next to die. And
Yeah.
you have staff from the Daily Bugle like Jameson and Robbie and Ben Urich, and they're taking bets on who's going to die
Aunt
next.
May or
And
MJ is what they say.
yeah, and they're like, oh yeah, that's if this kid doesn't die
Yeah.
first, if he isn't next. And then he gets attacked by this killer robot, and
Yeah.
finally Strange shows up to free Peter to take him back from this nightmare demon. And this demon tries taking the form of Doctor Strange, Mr. Strange's father, really.
Mm-hmm.
But that only makes Strange so angry, actually, it backfires that he summons enough power to banish the demon from this realm after overpowering him.
Yeah.
And so Strange explains all of this to Peter when he wakes up, but of course Peter is way too overwhelmed by the whole experience that he just bolts and he takes off. He doesn't even pick up his mask on the way out. He's like, I'm out. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. Like, that was some freaky shit.
It's like the musical song "Spooky Mormon Hell Dream," except he actually was in hell for a bit.
Yeah.
It's like this is what happens if you die. It's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, he's like, I want nothing to do with that.
I do like how, like, in so many comic mediums, they go like, there's a separation between the magic world and like the regular superhero world, because people just don't want to comprehend the fact that like higher planes of existence exist, and it's just so terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the big thing with Cthulhu and all that is that like it's not that he himself is terrifying; it's you're terrifying because you realize you're just one tiny piece of this greater, scarier world. And Peter just touched that world, like, because he could comprehend dictators or like Doctor Octopus. He can't comprehend the like nightmare demon or whatever.
Yeah, he's definitely more about tangible threats in the real world and physical threats and things like that.
Yeah.
Anything that can be grounded in reality. As soon as it leaves this plane of reality, it's too much.
Yeah. And I don't
And
blame
I'd say
him.
that's the case for most heroes,
Yeah.
because most heroes don't deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That puts characters like Strange in a unique position.
Which is a shame that they did this to Mr. Strange here, where he's just such an amateur and we don't really get to see what he does, really.
But I think it's cool that the issue kind of ends with Wong being like, well, it's over. But Strange is like, yeah, well, I need to prepare and be ready because it's over for now. But I wasn't prepared for this and I need to train harder and study more and I need to learn more to be ready for something like this. Like, we got lucky this time, is basically what he says.
Yeah.
So it gives us potential for growth for this character, for this version of Doctor Strange.
Yeah. He's still mostly a joke, and unfortunately, like, spoilers, he kind of remains a joke for like the rest of Ultimate's existence.
I think that's a problem with a lot of Ultimate characters, is that there is potential there, but their potential does get dashed at a certain point.
Yeah.
But for Peter, it's a sad ending for this issue. He's just crouching in his basement and just shaking and he's terrified. And MJ's outside in the rain because they actually haven't gone on their fancy date yet, because that was all a nightmare. And she's waiting outside and she's like, tonight was supposed to be our fancy date. And while that's happening, it's cutting till Peter's getting flashbacks to the dream where MJ in the dream is yelling like, you're going to kill me and I'm going to die just by knowing you.
Yeah.
So it's really well done, but it's such a sad ending. He's overwhelmed by the trauma of these nightmares, which have really just unlocked a lot of fears and traumatic memories of his life that he's been carrying with him for so long. Since before he became Spider-Man, honestly, but especially since he became Spider-Man, with losing Uncle Ben, with losing Gwen, with everything he's learned about his parents and the whole Venom storyline and everything. It's like really weighed on him now.
Yeah.
So this was more than just another fun team-up arc.
This is very heavy.
This was an ordeal.
Yeah.
This was a gauntlet.
Yeah, I love the line MG said, like, when you kissed me, you sealed my, like, you basically sentenced me to death or something. Yeah,
Yeah, like, ooh, that's tough.
the we also know how like it's gonna end though for Ultimate Spider-Man and much of the Ultimate Universe though. So I guess in the end,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
I told you once last week I didn't like this issue. I changed my mind. I do like this issue. I think it's very much appropriate of Peter dealing with the fact that by being Spider-Man he possibly sentenced so much of his loved ones to death. But I think a lot of it, if
Yeah,
he didn't become Spider-Man, like at least with Harry and Norman, that drama was gonna happen.
yeah,
Even thing with the
totally.
burglar, like that, if he wasn't Spider-Man, that guy would have gotten away.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the thing about Spider-Man is he will feel guilt over things that honestly so much of the time he couldn't even control
Mm-hmm.
if he wanted to.
Yeah,
But it's always that feeling of I could have done more, I could have done this differently and that differently, which is a very human feeling.
yeah,
But when a lot of the times it's like this is something that might have happened whether or not you had made this decision or that decision. Some things you can't control and it's not your fault.
yeah.
So like, yeah,
It's him realizing how real, like, because I feel like the thing with like the secret identity thing is that like, oh, it keeps you like, it's like, oh, it's for the loved ones, but like in Spider-Man's case, they still get hurt really often. It's a Spider-Man, it's the
yeah.
Spider-Man thing or the Peter Parker syndrome where everything's just tied to him for better or for worse, especially in Ultimate.
Yeah, that's true. If you're in his orbit, bad things might end up happening to you. You
Yeah.
could get hurt, you could get killed, you could become a supervillain.
Hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah. It's a weird case because I don't think that's the case with like a lot of other characters. I think maybe for Batman, but that's because he gets all his loved ones into costumes. So
That's true. Yeah, they just all become teenage
yeah,
sidekicks. Yeah. No, I feel like a lot of other costume heroes it happens. I mean, like Daredevil for sure.
okay,
Like that's a big issue for him. Like I think that's the case with a lot of costumed
hmm
heroes. If they're more powerful or just brighter, more optimistic characters, like Superman, honestly doesn't have that problem because like it's Superman.
yeah,
That's not going to be a big deal.
yeah,
But like in one way or another, there will be some risk and some harm, and that's inherent in like being a superhero
yeah,
in these
yeah,
comics to your loved ones and supporting cast.
yeah.
Hey, yeah, that's pretty much it for this batch of issues. Josh, you got any final thoughts on
No, I
these?
think I said my piece. These were very fun issues. Some of them felt like they were a little like out of order, but like they were lighthearted. The last one was not
Yeah.
lighthearted; it was very deep. You should watch the Ultimate Spider-Man TV episodes about the Nightmare with Doctor Strange and the Wolverine body switcheroo because those weren't bad. Uh,
I'll have to look them up. Yeah.
the one with Doctor Strange ends on a different note where Peter Parker, the Nightmare doesn't affect him because he goes like, "Well, I made peace with my errors in the past. I made peace with the fact I got Uncle Ben possibly killed," which is not the case
Yeah.
in this episode.
No.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. I think, yeah, I agree with you. These were some very good issues, mostly pretty fun, some not so fun, but still very well done and very interesting and
Yeah.
quality issues all around. I love like the little two-part storylines breaking things up.
Yeah.
It was very enjoyable as usual with Ultimate Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Next time we will be back to Ultimate Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
We'll be reading issues 13 through 20. So that should be very fun. I'm very much looking forward to getting back to that.
I love Ultimate Fantastic Four so far. It's really good so far.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I really enjoy
It's
it
honest
for sure.
because I think with Ultimate Spider-Man, it's so ingrained in popular media, and because it just was so influential and good, you kind of know what's gonna happen. You kind of know the ABCs of it. With Ultimate Fantastic Four, you don't yet. It's still
Yeah.
so fresh. Ultimate X-Men is just like I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, I do because I read a lot of it, but like it's just so crazy and like out of left field. Sometimes you just are blown away.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
It is pretty different.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good for next time. And until then, Josh, what's our email if people want to email
It's
us?
ultimatecomicspodcast@gmail.com. Remember, it's Ultimate Comics with a plural for comics and a singular for podcast.
That's right. Email us with your thoughts about these issues, the comics we read, our show, Marvel, any comics in general, honestly, pretty much anything.
Oh.
And we'd love to hear from you, and maybe we'll read out anything you have to say on the podcast. It'll be a lot of fun. We also have our Instagram account, our TikTok, and our YouTube channel, all at Ultimate Comics Podcast. So you can watch our reels, YouTube shorts, TikToks, like the images we post on Instagram from comics we read. That would be pretty cool. Yeah. We love interacting with all of our fans on social media and friends that we connect with. So please check those out. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Until next time, we'll be back. So take care and make mine Ultimate Marvel. Bye bye.